Dear students, this video is the continuation of the topic demand paging in the virtual memory management chapter. We should also notice that in the page table, if that particular page is marked as invalid and that process is never trying to access such page, then it is not going to affect the execution of that process, since that process is never trying to access that page, and it will think that the pages that are required for its execution are all completely loaded into the memory and the normal execution of the process goes on. But now suppose a page that is marked as invalid is trying to be accessed by the process, then what will happen is it is going to lead to a page fault trap because it is not found in the memory. That is why it is marked as invalid, and if the process is trying to access a page which is not loaded into the memory, then it is going to lead to a page fault trap. This trap is nothing but it is the result of the operating system's failure in order to bring the desired page into the memory. There is a procedure for handling such page faults. Okay, we will see those steps. Okay, in order to handle page faults, the first step is we should check an internal table, okay, other than the page table. Okay, in order to check to determine whether the referenced page was a valid one or a invalid memory access. Okay, so we should check first the memory reference that is made, whether it is a valid one or an invalid memory access. Okay, now suppose if it is an invalid memory access, then we should immediately terminate the process, that is nothing but abort. Okay, now suppose if it is a valid one, if it is valid, that means what? We have not yet brought that page into the memory, so we will do it now. Okay, invalid indicates we should terminate the process. If it is valid one, it just means that particular page is not yet loaded into the memory, so we will load it now. So now next step is we should check for a free frame in order to bring that particular page into the memory. Okay, so we should find a free frame. Okay, this can be done by checking the free frame list. Okay, from that we will get to know which frame is free, and then we will just need to find out which frame is free so that we can bring that page into that particular frame. Next step is we should schedule a disk operation to read the desired page into the newly allocated frame. Okay, so that means swap in. You should swap in the page that is to be loaded into the memory now. That is nothing but should schedule a disk operation, that means should generate a read operation to read the desired page into the newly allocated frame. Okay, this is in continuation with the previous slide. Okay, now next step is once the disk read is complete, we should modify the internal table that is kept with the process and also the page table to indicate that the page is now in memory. That means the page was not found, so we have read that particular page from the disk and now it is placed into the memory. So that means we should update the page table now. Okay, we can set the validation bit equal to V. Okay, next step, after this we restart the instruction that was interrupted by the trap. That means when that particular process execution was interrupted because of the page fault, that is going to be resumed now. Okay, that means we are going to restart the instruction execution, so the process can now access the page as though it was had always been in the memory. So now once that particular instruction is executed again, the process will think that it can normally execute the process as if that process that particular page was already present in the page table or it was already present in the memory. Okay, so the steps in handling a page fault have been described with the hardware here. Okay, so we can see the first step, that is when we are executing a process, that particular page is not found. Okay, that process is not able to access that page, which is leading to a page fault. Okay, so you can see the step 1 here with this arrow mark to the page table. We can check that particular page is set to I, that bit is set to I, which is indicating invalid page. If it is invalid, then what we are going to do? It is going to be a trap to the operating system. Okay, that is step 2. This arrow mark to operating system, it is indicating a trap here. Now next, what is the step 3? It should go to the backing store to check for that particular page. That means the page is not in the memory, it is in the backing store on the disk. So that is step 3. Step 4 is what? We should find a free frame in order to bring back that missing page. Okay, so we have checked that particular page and found a free frame, and we have brought that page into the free frame. Okay, that is in the physical memory. Next, step 5 is what? We should reset the page table, update that particular bit I to bit V in the page table, and then last step is to restart the execution of the instruction. So the extreme case is what? We can start executing a process without any pages in the memory. That means with no pages that are loaded into the memory. So when the operating system sets the instruction pointer to the first instruction in the process, that means once the process starts executing its first instruction, which will be referring to a non-memory resident page. That means it is referring to a page which is not loaded into the memory. So that time what will happen? This process will immediately fault for a page. That means it will lead to a page fault, and again this page fault will lead to a trap to the operating system, and this process goes on. That is the process for identifying a page fault and recovering a page fault goes on. Okay, so after recovering that page, or that page is brought into the memory, then the process will continue to execute, and it will keep on faulting the pages until it is necessary for execution. Okay, so until it is loaded into the memory, it keeps on faulting each of the pages. So at that point it can execute with no more faults. That means as and when it leads to next instruction, and if that particular memory reference is not there, it will lead to a page fault, and then recover that page from the disk to the main memory and keep on doing it. Okay, so until and unless it finds no faults. Okay, this scheme is nothing is called as a pure demand paging. Okay, so this scheme is called as pure demand paging. So what it will do is, it will never bring a page into the memory until it is necessarily required. Sometimes what happens, a given instruction could access multiple pages, resulting in multiple page faults. How this can happen is, consider an example of an instruction add a comma b comma c. Okay, in this instruction what we are going to do is, we need to add the value of a comma b and store it in c. Okay, so what we say is that given instruction could access multiple pages. So with this example, what may happen is, one page will be used for the instruction, and this instruction is using 3 different operands. Assume these 3 operands are stored in different pages. Okay, so they are present in different pages. Okay, so now what I'm trying to say is, if this given single instruction is now accessing multiple different pages, that is by accessing the operands. Okay, now in order to fetch the value of a and b, suppose those pages are not present in the main memory, it would result in page fault. Since it is accessing multiple pages, it is resulting in multiple page faults. Okay, so these the result of these multiple page faults will degrade the performance of the computer system. Okay, so in order to avoid such cases, the programs will make use of locality of reference. Okay, so this term locality of reference we will be studying in detail in the further concepts. Okay, just remember that in order to avoid such cases, the programs will make use of locality of reference. Also, the hardware to support demand paging is similar to the hardware that is given for paging as well as swapping. It consists of a page table. Okay, so this page table has the ability to mark whether that page is valid or invalid, corresponding to each of the frame numbers. Okay, so that is through valid and invalid bits involved. Okay, next we have secondary memory. So this secondary memory, it will hold the pages that are not in the main memory. Okay, so this secondary memory will be usually a high speed hard disk. Okay, so it is also known as swap device because we are using this for swapping in and swapping out the pages to the primary memory, that is from secondary memory to primary memory. Okay, so now the space that is used in the disk for this swapping purpose is called as swap space. Okay, swap space is nothing but the space in the secondary memory that is used for swapping in and swapping out of the pages. Okay, now the crucial requirement for demand paging is the need to be able to restart the execution of an instruction after a page fault. Okay, so normally what we do when an interrupt occurs during the execution, uh, usually we stop the current execution of the program and serve the interrupt, come back and resume the execution. That means what, we should exactly restart the process or the execution of the program from where we had stopped. In order to do this, what we have to do, we should save the state when the interrupt occurs. We should save the state of the program or state of the process when the interrupt occurs. When I say save the state, it means what? It means we should save the values of various registers, condition codes, program counter, instruction counter, etc. Okay, so the values of these registers should be stored so that after serving the interrupt, we come back and resume that execution. Okay, so the same thing will happen during the page fault. So page fault is basically what? It is a trap to the operating system which is going to interrupt the execution of the process. Okay, so when we are interrupting a process with a page fault, what we should do, we should stop the execution of that process and find the page, come back and restart the execution of that particular instruction where it had stopped. So we should be able to restart the process in exactly the same place, and except that the desired page is in the memory, now the execution goes normal. Okay, so initially what, that particular page was not found, so that is why it is resulting in page fault. Now after loading that page into the memory, the normal execution of the process should go on. So this page fault, when it can occur, a page fault may occur at any point of time. Okay, so it can occur at any memory reference we are doing. Okay, so if the page fault occurs on the instruction fetch, okay, if when I'm trying to fetch the instruction, that time only if the page fault occurs, that means the memory reference what I'm trying to do is not yet loaded into the main memory. Okay, that means it is going to result into a page fault. If it happens at the instruction fetch, we can restart the fetching stage, okay, by loading that particular page into the memory. Okay, so load that particular page into the memory and then we can restart by fetching the instruction again. Okay, now also the page fault may occur while we are fetching the operands. Okay, when I said the example of add a comma b comma c, if a page fault is occurring when I'm trying to fetch the values of a and b, that time what we should do, we must fetch and decode the instruction again and then fetch the operands. Okay, so while fetching value of a and b, the page fault has occurred. Okay, so only the instruction fetching and decoding is done. After that only I'm going to fetch the value of a and b. So while fetching a and b, the interruption or the page fault has occurred. So that means what I have to do, I have to first load those pages and then I have to restart the execution of the instruction. Okay, and then again fetch the instruction, decode and then fetch the operands. Now to consider a worst case example, let us take this example. Adding a and b and storing into c, that is the instruction add a comma b comma c. In this what we do, we should add the value of a and b and store it back to c. Okay, so what are the steps involved in execution of any instruction is basically the following steps will be involved. One is first thing is to, we should fetch the instruction. Okay, after fetching we should decode the instruction. So after decoding I will get to know that fetch instruction is fetching the instruction that is a comma b comma c, and then I have to decode this instruction. After decoding I will get to know that I have to add the value of a and b and I have to store it in c, that is it is a nothing but a add instruction. So after fetching the instruction and decoding, next step is what? I have to fetch the operands. First fetch a and then fetch b. Next step is what? We have to add these two operands, that is add a comma b, that is add a and b, and then after adding the sum should be stored back to c. Okay, so these are the steps that are involved in execution of any instruction. Okay, now suppose if a page fault occurs when we are trying to store the value in c. Okay, so that time what we have to do? Page fault is occurring at c means what? C is in a page that is not yet been loaded into the memory. It is still in the disk only. It has not yet loaded into memory. So in that case what we have to do? We will have to get the desired page, get it into the main memory, and then correct the page table, because we have to update the page table once we load any new page into the memory, and then restart the instruction. See, in this case what we have to do? Restarting will require fetching the instruction again and decoding it again, and after that I have to fetch the two operands again and then add again. After this only I can store the value into c. Okay, now this page will be loaded. Now I can store the value into c. Okay, so that might be the one of the worst case example for an page fault. The next topic is performance of demand paging. Demand paging can significantly affect the performance of a computer system. Okay, to understand why, let us calculate the effective access time for a demand paged memory. Okay, for most of the computer systems, the memory access time, that is denoted by MA, ranges from 10 to 200 nanoseconds. Okay, so as long as we have no page faults, the effective access time will be equal to the memory access time. Okay, so whenever we do not have any page fault, the effective access time for that particular page will be equal to the memory access time. Okay, suppose we have a page fault, then what will be the effective access time? So we must first read the relevant page from the disk and then access the desired word. So whenever we find a page fault, what we will be doing? We will be reading that relevant page from the secondary storage, okay, and then placing it in the main memory. Okay, after that we can access that particular desired piece of information. Okay, let us consider this. Let p be the probability of a page fault. Okay, and memory access time will be denoted by MA. Okay, so this probability of page fault, it should range between 0 and 1. Okay, so p will be greater than equal to 0 and less than equal to 1. What it means is, if p is equal to 0, that means there are almost no page faults. Okay, that means we are trying to always minimize the value of p, that it should be reaching to 0, so that there are no page faults occurring. Okay, if p is equal to 1, that is the highest value of p, which means every page we are accessing is going to result into a fault. So every memory access what we are doing will be a fault if p is equal to 1. Then the effective access time will be, that is denoted by EAT, is equal to 1 minus p into MA plus p into page fault time. That is 1 minus the probability of page fault into memory access time plus page fault into page fault time. To compute the effective access time, we must know how much time is needed to service a page fault. A page fault causes the following sequence to occur. Okay, first step is, a page fault causes a trap to the operating system, and then we should save the user registers and process state. We should save the value of the user registers and the process state. Next step is, we should determine that the interrupt that was occurred is nothing but a page fault. Okay, and then check that the page reference was legal and determine the location of a page on the disk. Okay, after that we should check whether that memory reference what we made was legal, and we should determine the location of the page on the disk. Since it is not in the main memory, we should search it on the disk. Next step is we should issue a read from the disk to a free frame. Okay, so we have to issue a read operation from the disk to a free frame wherein we can allocate that particular page. Okay, in that the following sequence occurs: wait in a queue for this device until a read request is serviced. Okay, next wait for the device, seek and latency time, begin the transfer of the page to a free frame. Okay, we should wait in the queue for this particular device until the read request is serviced. Okay, until the read request is serviced, it will be in the waiting state. Okay, next wait for the device, seek and or latency time, that particular amount of time it should be waiting in the device. Okay, so next begin the transfer of the page to a free frame. After that particular latency time has elapsed, it will begin the transfer of the page to a free frame. Okay, next step 6, while waiting allocate the CPU to some other user. So since we are waiting for this particular read operation to happen, we can assign the CPU to some other user or some other process. Okay, next receive an interrupt from the disk IO subsystem, which is indicating that that particular IO has been completed. Okay, next step number 8, save the registers and process state for the other user. So during the waiting time we have allocated the particular CPU to some other user. We should save the state of that particular registers and process state for the other user. Okay, next step is determine that the interrupt was from the disk. Next, after the completion of IO, the disk will be triggering some kind of acknowledgement. That time we should determine that interrupt is coming from the disk. Okay, now next step is what? We should correct the page table and other tables to show pages is now in memory. So since that page is loaded into the main memory, we have to update the page table. Next, wait for the CPU to be allocated to this process again. After updating the page table, we should wait for the CPU to be allocated for this particular process again. Okay, once the CPU is allocated, last step is what? Restore the user registers, process state and new page table, and then resume the interrupted instruction. After restoring the values of registers, process state as well as new page table is nothing but the updated one. We should resume the interrupted instruction and start executing again. In any of the cases, we will be facing with the 3 major components of the page fault service time. That is, one is the page fault interrupt, which is going to be done with careful coding, which may involve hundreds of lines of instruction in order to serve this. Okay, next in read in the page. Okay, it is going to consume lots of time, or it is going to consume more time compared with the other things like restarting the process or servicing the interrupt, etc. Okay, next last one is restart the process. Again it is going to consume small amount of time. Okay, restart the process in the sense, once we serve the interrupt, that is once we handle the page fault, we are going to restart the process. Mainly what is going to happen is we need to serve the page fault, that is nothing but bringing back the page into the main memory. Okay, next is, in order to do this, we have to read the page that is in the secondary storage. That is the main task here. So read in page is going to consume more time. After reading, and once it is in the main memory, we are going to restart the process. Restarting this resumed process is going to consume a little amount of time. Let us consider an example of demand paging, okay, wherein the memory access time is going to be 200 milliseconds, and it is also given that average page fault service time is equal to 8 milliseconds. Okay, now we will substitute these values in order to find effective access time. Okay, so the formula is given as 1 minus p into ma plus p into page fault time. Okay, so we know we will substitute the values here. Okay, we know the value of memory access time, substitute that as 200, and we also know the average page fault service time, substitute the values. Okay, if one of the axis out of 100 causes a page fault, if one axis out of 1000 accesses causes page fault, then effective address is going to be 8.2 microseconds. This means the computer will be slowed down by a factor of 40 because of the demand paging. Okay, dear students, in this presentation we have seen background, virtual memory management background, as well as we have studied demand paging and its performance. Thank you. We will see the continuation of this chapter in the upcoming videos. Thank you.